Hello, my name is David Moody and welcome to my channel Creative Imagineering. For this first video we are going to review a project that I've been working on for several months. It's my Star Trek original series themed PC Workstation. Hope you enjoy. Maybe early last year I started thinking about a new workstation, new desk. I was getting sick to death of dust collecting on my desk, around the computer, around the cables, and especially since we have a husky cross, hair is flying through the house and hair collects on the desk. It was difficult to keep it clean, and I wanted something that I could keep clean. And the more I thought about it, the more and of course coincidentally the more I was watching classic Star Trek, the more I realized that the old 1960s style consoles that were reinterpreted for the TV show were the most ideal, because nothing is exposed. It's all enclosed in huge cabinets, which in reality, they look huge, but in reality no more space is taken up. Okay, you have an open computer desk with a monitor sitting on it and lots of cables hanging around, takes up no more or less space than a fully enclosed unit. The difference is the unit that's not fully enclosed seems to feel more spacious, it seems to feel more minimalist, but in reality it's the exact opposite. You've got cables and dust collection and everything else. So minimalism is not minimalism. Minimalism is actually creating, in my opinion, is what I've done here. It's okay, it looks bulky, but it's easy to clean, it's easy to maintain. It's true minimalism, I believe, is in maintenance effort and cleanliness and all those kinds of things, not in visual appearance, because in the end looks are deceiving. So I ended up deciding that I needed to build a fully enclosed workstation, and since the designs in the classic Star Trek show looked so good, I thought, I'm just going to go for that. I mean, I love the show anyway, as you can see. I also, by the way, for all you Star Wars fans out there, I do like Star Wars 2, and I do have the two Sphero droids, R2-D2 and BB-8, and you'll be seeing them in future episodes. Okay, now, moving on. So, what I'm going to do here today, I'm just going to review basically a photo slideshow of what I've come up to at this very point right now. This is where I'm at now. Obviously I haven't shot any videos to show you the making of this. I can't walk you through actually doing stuff because it's already done. So bear with me. I hope you enjoy this photo slideshow, that it might give you some inspiration for what you want to do yourself. Okay. So I started off opening SketchUp and sketching away. I had some basic ideas on measurements. I was looking at conventional desks for height and width and all that kind of stuff to think about how I wanted the machine to look. And as you can see here, it is the normal height, it is the normal width, and you can also see that I've allowed for a large screen. And of course the screen behind me is a 32.5-inch curved screen. There were no curved screens in the original series, but if they were around, believe me, they would have used them. So, yeah, this is meant to be practical, not TV set accurate. Okay, so I designed this in SketchUp, and it's a cross of ideas. You know, the monitor at the top is meant to represent the view screen on the bridge. Okay, the bench top, obviously something more like what would be in an officer's quarters, like you frequently saw in Captain Kirk's quarters. Okay, and below you see that receding cabinet with the mesh grill in front, just like on the bridge of the Enterprise. And how many times do you see Uhura or Spock climbing down there, opening up that grill and doing whatever they're doing inside, you know? So that's the basic look I want. It's an amalgamation. I went for the idea that, just like they did in the show, you know, they've got a new set that's needed for a new episode, and they have to design a whole new sets for it. How's it going to look? I took that approach. Okay, so I even come up with a name to justify it, Creative Imagineering. It wasn't meant to be a YouTube channel originally, but I'm going to give it a go. Okay, so I'm a great believer in recycling. If you look at my existing woodworking blog, you'll see that I've made a lot of projects using recycled materials, pallet woods and things like that. For this project, especially for this main cabinet, I actually used a pair of old bedroom drawers. Two sets of them. They were falling apart, but the material was still quite usable. Okay, so you see here I've got the cabinets and there's the drawers. I've reused in two different ways. You'll see in coming slides. The large panels became the main cabinet for this unit, as well as the side table over here, and the drawers have been used for another project which I've also done in the Star Trek theme, but it's actually a model car display shelf, and I'll show that in another video. Okay, so here I'm putting it together. I've used the end pieces from the drawer sets. The front piece is just a piece of recycled plywood, and you can see that brownish rail at the back. That's just recycled skirting board. Okay, a lot of the material I've used has come from a former apartment building that was for Burmese people. I was given all the wood to recycle, so the plywood was actually the wall panels, and the skirting board, as well as the material that I've used for the bench top here and the tabletop and the side cabinet that I'll show you later. They all came from a fitness centre across the road from here that closed down about 1.5 years ago. So in return for helping dismantle all the lockers, I was given a whole bunch of wood, so I'm very happy. Another important aspect of the design was the grill. Now, I know the grill is readily available in a number of Western countries, but I'm living in Thailand, in the middle of Asia. Okay, I probably could have ordered it, but at what expense? So again, I went back to SketchUp and just using a reference photo of Spock doing some repairs or adjustments underneath his console. It's actually a promo image, it's not in any episode, but just using that as a reference, because in that pic his hand is up, in front of him is a tricorder, and there's a few other odds and ends from which there are known measurements, and just even seeing his thumb sticking up near the grill gave me a frame of reference for designing this mesh. It's not 100% accurate. I went for a little bit thinner look, but the style is the same. I have a Creality Ender 3 3D printer, and I use that to print out the panels. Obviously it's limited size, I couldn't print out the whole thing in one piece, so I just printed out in 8 grids and I super glued those together. You can see they're all glued together now, and I'm laying them out on the cabinet in this photo, ready for cutting the hole. Okay, there the hole's cut. You can see I'm framing it up now. Now, if you're familiar with building flat pack furniture, like wardrobes or shelving units, whatever, there's a thin masonite-like material that's in the back of the cabinets, and it often has some kind of vinyl, plastic or paper overlay on it. It might be plain colour, it might be a wood grain finish, whatever it might be. But I have got a heap of that stuff from some old furniture that was just knocked apart and no good, and I was able to reclaim that stuff, and I've been using it in various parts of the project, and it came in very useful for framing up this grill. You can see there the printed finish that the stuff had on it, and believe it or not, just ordinary super glue really fastened it all down really well. And there it is in place. I put additional pieces inside to make it a little bit more rigid, and it's held in by magnets in each corner, as well as non-slip matting along each side. And here it is. This is the main unit assembled without the monitor box yet, that comes later. So I went back to SketchUp and I designed the side table. It's meant to wrap around the unit, and it comes from Captain Kirk's quarters. Okay, this is from photos of the sets designed for Star Trek New Voyages, the fan-based series. And these are very accurate recreations of the original show, and you can see the wedge-shaped table there that Captain Kirk would sit at. So I designed this table to wrap around the right-hand side of my desk. And of course I went back to leftover material from the drawer sets to build the shelving section. And I had a neat little problem. I had to measure the angles, and I don't have a carpenter's protractor of any kind here with me at the moment, and I'm not going to buy one because when my father passed away I inherited all these tools, and I have a brilliant one in the toolbox there in Australia. Next time I get back there, I'll bring it with me. So I'm not going to buy something I already have. So I needed an interim solution. I just printed out a normal school protractor, full-size A4 paper, and it worked brilliantly. So there's a creative solution to an interesting problem. Okay, you don't need to go out to shop, buy an expensive device. Just print out a protractor on some card or paper, and off you go. It worked well. Trial fit. I'm very, very happy at that point. And again, there's the assembly, but all painted except for the edges. And trial fit again, fully painted now, both the units put together. Now, if you've watched the show a lot, you'll realise that underneath the consoles, obviously, there's various scientific computer equipment. Well, at least that's the way it looked in the 1960s when the show first aired. I have an Amazon Alexa device, and its wake word is computer, so I've got to be careful what I say. It'll sometimes talk to me. So this is the view from inside, looking at the grill, and through that grill would be the bridge of the Enterprise. So this is the effect I'm going for. You can see there is some colour in there, not a huge amount of colour. There's a lot more colour in places like the Jeffries tube, but I wanted to bring the colour into that room, into this cabinet, very appropriately, very usefully. So at this point, I 3D printed a bunch of brackets. Now the angle brackets at the top half of that photo are just downloads from Thingiverse, okay? But the posts, the pegs that you see at the bottom are my own design, based on something I saw on Thingiverse that I thought was inadequate. And they are the actual mounting posts for the motherboard, so that the motherboard can be screwed directly into the cabinet, okay? And of course I painted them in the bold colours of yellow and red that you see on Star Trek, you know. And if you have a look at the top left photo, the red components, they're just the rafts from 3D printing. Okay, I don't use rafts much anymore. I mainly use the brim, but at that time I was using rafts. So I had these large square sections of rafts which I could use as plastic shields behind the motherboard, covering the wood and the paint. So that worked brilliantly. And you might see there some of the rafts are definitely not Star Trek. Some a TIE fighter was actually useful there as a to go in the background of a bracket. So yeah, a little bit of Star Wars sneaked in there. So you can see I'm starting to put together. The bracket's been used for cables and supporting like the power supply for the large monitor. I put another wooden bracket in there to support the UPS. And if you see the stainless steel brackets there are not actually meant to be used for this purpose. They're the clothes rod brackets for the lockers that I recovered from some of the lockers that I was given from the gym where I did the dismantling, and they just happened to work well with that giant rubber band, which again was just a piece of packaging from a artist's easel that I just kept, and is holding that UPS in there very nicely. Although I don't know for how long in this hot climate, I need to find a more permanent solution. So there we go. You can see I've been installing all the computer hardware, the motherboard, the hard drives, and all the other bits and pieces are all mounted in there directly. And I installed a 1 meter long strip of multicolour light. I have it on a rotation of the seven bold colours. Because if you have a look on photos of the Bridge Enterprise, the different grills around the bridge are often different colours, probably lit up by normal fluorescent tubes with colour tubing on them. But I've gone for the LED alternative, and I'll tell you what, doesn't it look good at night? You know, it looks fantastic. You can see that purple in there is from the Enterprise night light that now sits on top. These are the cabinets that I mentioned earlier. Okay, they originally built as a single unit of 2 cabinets, one on top of the other. These 3 units, the bottom sections had been affected by water and were just black with mould. They stank. So the owners didn't want to keep them, so I cut the bottom sections off and kept the top sections, and they've formed the basis of the side cabinet. Okay, now I know the cabinet behind Captain Kirk that you see in the photos just had a safe in it, but again, I want usability, not authenticity. I want the authenticity of the appearance, but not the actual design. One of the cabinets I took the side out and rotated it so it was flat with the front, so that it would form a wall going down the left hand side of the computer console. There we are, trial assembly, and now with the top on. Again, that's just 2 planks that we used that I recovered from the gym, and they've been screwed and glued together and painted up. They just look fantastic. Oh, by the way, the paint I got from, it's a brand called Jotun, Jotun, and it's called Jazz Grey. Again, it's not the specified paint colour from that I've seen on any documentary on the building of the sets, but my question to you is this: do you use the authentic colour used by the sets, or do you use the colour that you saw on your TV screen? Right? Because the way it looked on the TV screen often differs from the original colour, because you get varying tone, depends on your brightness settings, your contrast settings. And I'm not just thinking about watching it on my TV now, I'm thinking about the old Triton 33-inch TV that we watched back in the 1980s, you know? So that's what I'm thinking, and so I chose a colour that honoured the original colour from the sets, but also reflected how I see it on TV. That's the look I wanted. And I kept the packaging, the polystyrene packaging from the monitor, and you see with a hot cutter, I cut the centre out so that I could make a frame for making the cabinet for the monitor. Yeah, there we go, I'm all framing it all up. And I went for a non-standard look here, because I'm using a mixture of foam and some rubber and different materials. I needed to blend it all together somehow, and plywood just wasn't working for me, so I covered it with feature board, which is like a ribbed sign board. It's not an authentic appearance, but I actually like it. Now painted up, it gives a subtle ribbed appearance, which provides a nice contrast for the rest of the design. So I actually like it. And here's the final look. Okay, you can see there in the photo that I've got a LED on a grey cable. That's just an old USB cable. I cut the end off, and I mounted a large momentary button on this end with the LED, and that's plugged into the power pins on the motherboard. And that's what I use to power up the PC. Now, obviously that's not long term. What I'm actually just going to do is build a original series style desktop computer. But it'll be more like 2/3 scale, not full scale, because full scale is like nearly 50 centimeters long. You know, I'm going for less than 40, more like 33, 35, something like that long. And it'll have the button for powering on, another button for the reset, and other buttons for switching on and off display lights and different functions. Okay, so there'll be 6 buttons in total. So it had a triangular light bar at the top, triangular cross-section light bar at the top, and it had 6 buttons, but they were in a staggered format. I'm going to put 6 buttons in a line. They're not going to be black gun trigger style buttons. They're going to be white, 3D printed, thin, so that the LEDs inside create the light. That's how that's going to work, and there'll be an Arduino inside. So I've actually 3D printed. I'll cover this in a future episode, but I've actually 3D printed brackets so that I can put 2 momentary buttons in there, pushed down by the one 3D printed button. So one button goes to the PC, the other one goes to the Arduino to create various light and sound effects in the desktop, fake desktop computer. That's how that will work. And here we go. I'm loving it. It's just looking great at night. And yeah, just had to get into costume.
Scotty, I need warp drive now.
That's been a lot of fun. I've loved building this project, and it's nowhere near finished. So in future episodes, I'll actually be doing making videos of various aspects of this thing. Have a great day. I wish you all the well, and get stuck into creative imagineering. Imaginatively create something new. Bye-bye.